Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with little Miss Arlow and I'm going to be sharing with you guys my birth story. As you guys know from previous videos, I could not record my birth vlog, which I was very upset about. But I did have a different experience this time around, and I wanted to go ahead and sit down and record this. That way I can look back at it and remember all the details and also share it with you if you're expecting, or if you happen to have a C-section and you want to know what it could be like. Now, I went into it already prepared of what was going to happen because this was my third C-section. If you guys are new here, this is my third baby. I have two other daughters as well. Monroe is 6 and Zaya is 1. And then Arlo here was just born on May the 3rd. So this was already scheduled for another third repeated C-section. They say that it's just safer once you've had C-sections before to have them again. It's just what they prefer to do. The doctors say that it can be very dangerous to try to do a vaginal birth after having multiple C-sections. So I went into it already knowing and preparing myself of what was to come. The only thing that I was nervous about was the actual epidural part or spinal. They give you either one. That was the only part I was really nervous about. And it went super different again than my other two C-sections. So let me go ahead and start from the beginning. Sorry if you see my hands like this. I don't know what this is about. I just talk with my hands a lot. So I was actually due on May the 10th, but they went ahead and scheduled me for the 3rd, which is actually the day that I turned 39 weeks. So I went in that morning. They told me to be there. My actual scheduled time was at 8 a.m. for the surgery. They wanted me to come 2 hours before, even though I had already came the day before to fill out all my paperwork and to draw blood, just so they can have all that stuff prepared. So you go in at 6 and they do like a pre-op. The pre-op was just basically, I went in there, they automatically just gave me a gown, told me to change into it. Then once I lay down on the bed, that's when they automatically start putting in my IV. They checked my blood pressure. They asked any kinds of questions. If you're allergic to anything, complications during your pregnancy, anything like that they need to know. So then they also hook up your belly to the monitors. That way they're listening to the baby's heartbeat, making sure she's not in distress, making sure and they're also checking like if you're having any contractions, which I was having contractions. They weren't super painful, but they were uncomfortable. So as I'm laying there in the bed, it's really just like a waiting game after they get everything hooked up. Since I had already filled out all my paperwork and everything was already done, once I was hooked up to the machines and my IV, it was basically just waiting. So my doctor, I tried to take kind of like a little nap because I didn't really sleep much the night before. But it didn't work out that way. A lot of people just kept texting me, sending me good wishes and sending me prayers. I just laid in the bed and me and Malcolm just basically talked until it was time. So like I said, we got there at 6. My doctor didn't come until like 7:20, 7:30 probably. He came in, he just asked me if I was ready. He checked the monitor, asked me if I was really uncomfortable because he saw that I was having contractions. And that was pretty much it of the pre-op room. The pre-op room that they put you in is like a labor and delivery room. So if you were to have like a vaginal birth, that would be like the room that they would put you in. So after my doctor came in, he said he was ready to go. The nurses start preparing. They give Malcolm his scrubs and cap to put on. They gave me my cap to put on. And then the nurses just started strolling me down to the operating room. So as I'm in the operating room, I automatically start getting nervous just because I know that the spinal is coming. The anesthesiologist told me the day before that I would be getting a spinal, which I wasn't sure because I've had the epidural and I've had a spinal before. I had the epidural my first pregnancy, and then I've had the spinal my last two. I think the only difference is they said that the spinal doesn't last that long like the epidural does. I'm sure there's more to it, but that's what I got basically from the information. So the only thing that makes me nervous about the spinal is just the fact that I know how long the needle is. I'm not good with needles. They freak me out. But yes, just knowing that it's a needle, and not only that it's a needle, but it's going in my back. It's going in my spine. So I just think the worst, that something bad is going to happen. So I'm sitting on the table, and all the nurses and stuff are just talking to me, and then the anesthesiologist tells you how to position, basically push your back towards them, shoulders forward. And they had two anesthesiologists actually in the operating room. The first one literally took him twice, and he could not get it. It's like he kept poking me, and it felt like he was stabbing me on the right side of my back. And it just felt like somebody was like taking the needle and going like this in my back, and it was like a burning sensation, which that is what it feels like, but it's supposed to burn for a second, and then it feels like a wave of liquid going down your legs. But he could not get it, and he hit the same spot twice. So after trying for twice, and I'm like literally in tears because that really hurts. When they do it the first time and they get it right, yes, it hurts, but it's over quick. But the fact that he just kept poking and prying and it wasn't working, it was making me so anxious, and I already came into it overwhelmed because of that. So after he tried twice, then the other anesthesiologist stepped in, and she got it on the first try, which ended up being 3 times that I was poked in my back. But she did it, and after she did it, I just automatically felt numb. And then that's when they went ahead and laid me down. It was really, really quick. Once I was laid down, they automatically start putting the sheet up. That's when they called Malcolm to come into the room. When he came into the room is when they told him that we could not record, and they were already starting the surgery. Because as soon as he put the sheet up, my doctor said, I'm testing. So he went to test, and he said, okay, let's go. So he was already starting when Malcolm was coming into the room. And they said that he could not, they said he could take pictures, but he could not record. And he could take pictures with his phone. So I was pretty upset about that. I will also put the pictures that he did take at the end of this video. That way you guys can see them. He was just making me laugh literally the whole time, trying to keep me distracted from what was going on. So they started the procedure at 8 o'clock. And no, it was probably a little after 8. It was probably at 8:15 they actually started the procedure. So it's really no pain after they numb you. It's just you hear them talking and you hear things going on down there, but you can't feel anything. Sometimes I'll feel like moving back and forth on my body. I kind of jiggled her. You kind of feel like moving back and forth like on your stomach, but you can't really feel anything. She was actually born at 8:49 in the morning is when they actually took her out, and she did one little scream, and that was it. And it kind of all of a sudden, when I heard that one scream, something just made me feel like it wasn't right. I don't know if maybe it was just, if it's me, my mother instincts, or was it really, I don't know what it was. But like with the other 2 girls that I had, they literally screamed the whole, like consistently. When they took them out, when they were wiping them down, checking, you know, all their heartbeat and listening to their lungs and taking all the fluid and stuff out of them, I heard them scream the whole time. And even when they brought them to me, the baby was still screaming. So for Monroe and Zaya, for her, literally it was one little cry and that was it. So initially I looked at Malcolm and I was like, can you see anything? Can you see her? And the anesthesiologist kept asking, he was like, I can take your phone and take pictures of her from here, but they're kind of blocking her because they had her over by like the little table, just checking her, listening to her heart and so forth. So Malcolm gave the anesthesiologist my phone and he was taking pictures, but we only got like her legs because, like I said, they were kind of blocking where she was. Then the pediatrician that was actually on call came over to us and said, she has a lot of fluid on her lungs. We need to take her down right now to the NICU. And oh my gosh, I'm about to get emotional. Ooh, my hormones, oh my goodness. This is exactly what happened. My eyes started watering. I looked at Malcolm. My heart literally dropped. I mean, I know that things like this happen all the time. And I know that it could have been a lot worse. But I've never had this happen. Like, I've never had a baby come out and have to go straight to the NICU, or, you know, there be complications and she has a lot of fluid on her lungs. Hold on, let me put myself together. Okay, sorry guys. So I just never had to experience that before. Like, all of the other births that I have experienced, I don't have that initial, as soon as they take the baby out and they give me the baby and I get skin to skin, but they usually do what they have to do and they bring the baby over to me and I can hold her. Well, I can't actually touch her, but they put her up against me, or have Malcolm hold the baby and put them up against me, and I can actually kiss her or just touch her. And then they usually will bring the baby to you when you're in the recovery room. But for them to automatically say, literally minutes after she's born, I have to take her to the NICU. She has fluid on her lungs and she needs more oxygen. Her oxygen level keeps dropping. That freaks a mother out, especially when I feel like I can't do anything. I'm literally strapped down to this table with my insides trying to be put back in, and my baby's being taken away from me. So that was pretty scary. So after that happened, they actually wheeled me into the recovery room. No, they actually wheeled me back into the labor and delivery room, the one that I was in previously, because the recovery room wasn't ready yet. So while I'm in the labor and delivery room, they put these pads on your legs, and it actually like adds, I don't know what it's called exactly, but it basically goes like this, and it helps the circulation of your helps the blood flow on your legs. That's what it does. Since your legs are asleep, they want to basically make sure that the blood is flowing through your legs until the numbness wears off. So that is on my legs. I'm literally just laying there, just thinking anything. The nurse keeps coming in and just reassuring me that she's okay. They just, you know, this happens a lot to C-section babies, since they're not getting actually squeezed coming out like they would if I had a vaginal birth. Sometimes the lungs, you know, just get filled up with fluid. And to me, I'm like, I get that. I understand how that can happen. But me being my third baby, I'm like, I've never had to experience this. So I just kept thinking it's more to it. Like, is it something that I did? Is it, I don't know. I just kept thinking there was more to it. So I get in, I'm still in the recovery room. She's still in the NICU. Then it takes them about an hour, and then they roll me down to the recovery room. They give me the phone and they say that I can contact the NICU to check on her and see how she's doing, because I can't get out of the bed. I'm still super numb and they don't want me getting up at all. So I call down there and I check on her probably almost every hour. I was also pumping. I got my pump. Well, they bring you a pump in there, and I automatically started pumping because I wanted to get my milk to start coming in. And I also, they told me that I could pump, and whatever I did pump, even if it's a few drops, to bring it down to the NICU and they can give it to her. And then Monroe and Zaya and my mom and my stepdad came up there probably around noon. They came up there to see me, and they wanted to see the baby, but she was still in the NICU. Literally, like I said, I had her Friday at 8:49 in the morning. I didn't get to actually hold her until Saturday at 3:30. So that's over 30 hours that I did not see her, get to touch her, feel her, nothing. Malcolm went down there frequently and he took pictures of her and, you know, came back and showed them to me so I could see what she looked like. Again, I'll probably put one on here so you can see. But she had like wires on her. She had an IV in her hand, and she had the oxygen around her nose. So it was pretty scary for me to see, especially since I couldn't go see her. So actually that night, Friday night, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. I actually went to the NICU. I got to go in there in a wheelchair, but I was hurting so bad, like I couldn't stand. So I could go, I went in there, that it was like around 11 midnight. They told me I was okay to actually sit in the wheelchair and go down there and to look at her on the little table. So I did do that. And she was still hooked up. But when I was in there, I saw the pediatrician who was in there, and I was so relieved because it's actually the girl's pediatrician that they have now and that they've had ever since Monroe was a baby. So I felt somewhat relieved because I was like, she's here, she's familiar with us, you know, I know her, and she's gonna take really good care of her. So I got to sit there and talk to her for a little bit, and she just kept reassuring me that, you know, she had been checking on her and everything was fine. She just needed a little bit more time to have oxygen. And every time they kept checking her previously, they would have her on it for a while, and then they would try to take it off or lower it, and her oxygen level just kept dropping. They just said she couldn't be without it for right now. So that's why it took over 30 some hours until I could get her, because she had to pass that. So me seeing the pediatrician, I was so much relieved. And then she even kept coming to my room and just telling me how she was doing, and that I would definitely get her in the morning. She was like, she wanted to keep her there that night just to keep checking her oxygen and all of her levels and making sure everything was fine, which it was when she was checking it, but she just wanted to double check everything. So she said in the morning I should definitely have her back. And then a new doctor came in, and then that's what prolonged everything. So I didn't get her until 3:30. But she came in Saturday around 3:30ish, and that is when I got to hold her and do skin to skin with her and finally breastfeed her. And then the girls were there when she came in, and they got to meet her. Zaya really didn't care too much. She saw that there was a baby, but she was too busy, that we were in an unfamiliar area and there was new things everywhere. So she was just all over the place. and Monroe was absolutely in love with her. She just kept wanting to hold her. I am so thankful that she didn't have to stay in there any longer. I don't know how you mamas do it that have had babies in the NICU. It literally breaks my heart to see them like that. There was a few other babies in there as well. And just me having a totally different experience this time than the last two, where I couldn't, initially hold her. It was just so different. It was like it's like I had surgery, but it was just regular surgery. It wasn't, there was a baby. Like, that's what it felt like I was just in the hospital because I had some kind of surgery. But I'm so thankful now that her health is great. She hasn't had any issues with breathing. She hasn't had any issues with eating. And she's actually been my only baby that I could actually breastfeed. The other two, I could not breastfeed them at all. My last one, I exclusively pumped, which I knew I couldn't do that this time around just because I already have a toddler and then I have a 6-year-old. So trying to exclusively pump with just the toddler alone would have been way too much. So I'm so glad that I was able to breastfeed her this time. And she's doing pretty good with sleeping. She eats every 3 hours. She does one big stretch when she first goes to sleep at night. So she'll usually fall asleep between 8 and 9, and then her first feeding in the middle of the night is usually like 1 or 2, and then after that she'll wake up between 3 and 5, and then it's every 3 hours after that. So I'm getting pretty much a little bit more sleep. I'm still tired because I'm taking care of her all day. She's going through a little phase right now where she just wants me to hold her, especially when she's trying to go to sleep. So I'm just soaking in all these little cuddles because I know it doesn't last long. But yeah, you guys, that is my birth story. I hope you guys did enjoy hearing it. Like I said, it was so different than my other 2 births, and I just wanted to really just share it with you guys. There's always things that go different than what we plan for them to. Like, I had in my mind, I knew exactly what was gonna happen, and it definitely took a totally left turn. So I hope you guys did enjoy my birth story. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe. I would love to have you guys a part of my YouTube community, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.